Hi guys. Today I'd like to explore the concept of fear of being seen and where this might stem from, what beliefs you might have operating within you that are kind of powering or watering this fear of being seen. So let's dive into it. Okay. Now, I was working through this the last couple of days and I realized that this belief of I'm afraid of being seen has many different beliefs attached to it. So a couple of them might be fear of judgment from others, and usually it's from your friend group, right? Or family members, those who are close to you. So fear of being seen can also be fear of judgment from others. It can be fear of not being enough. It can be fear of being incorrect. And what we want to do is go back to the point of origin, and that is when was the first time you developed this or you kind of had this fear seed within you? And if we can travel to that point in time, they might be multiple, but maybe the first point in time is going to weigh heavy for today's discussion. So let's dive into it. Now, let's say we go to that time where we're fine. Okay, so maybe you were a young kid and you had to perform in front of someone or at a place, and you might have perceived that you were ridiculed, or maybe something happened in that way, and as a young child or adult, you just processed that, okay, so this wasn't received well, and you perceive that you took it in, you internalized it in that way, and you made a story. Now, if we never revisit the story and challenge the truth, we're going to be operating from that frame of reference, okay? Now, when we go into they don't see me, and what happens within is what we really want to focus on. So if people aren't seeing you, what's happening within for you? What beliefs are you holding about yourself? Do you make it mean that I'm not enough? Do you make it mean that I should never be put out there and you're someone who just wants to blend in with the crowd always because you have now associated your worth from a place of, okay, so if I'm blended in, then I don't have to stand out. And what would standing out mean for you? So asking that alternative question is really powerful, where, so what if you were seen? What happens then? And how do you feel in your body? And you might experience a knee-jerk reaction where like, oh, this is uncomfortable, which is really interesting because you have this fear of being seen and you might have a want of wanting to be seen. But if we shift your reality and put you into, okay, now you're seen, now what? I also would like to challenge this by asking you, have there been moments in life where you were seen? And what did that feel like? And perhaps these moments weren't as terrifying or scary for you and it just came easy. Can you bring those moments forward? And let's just pin that over there for a second. Okay, so let's get into the more deeper question, which is, who do you want to be seen by? So this fear of being seen often can stem from that point of origin, an insult that at that point, a trauma that occurred at that point. And maybe you wish that you were seen, you weren't mocked or ridiculed by a group of people in general. And this is where a lot of social anxiety can definitely develop from. But even just in general, you carrying a perception about yourself that it's just safe to not be seen. So we really do operate, the fear that comes in is operating from that fight or flight response part of you. And we want to bring you back to safety. If you're still in fight or flight, whenever there are moments where you can be seen, that means there's something that is presenting as a threat and we want to be able to neutralize it. For some of you, the people or the person that you want to be seen by might be your parents. And so some of you might have inner child wounds where as a young toddler, you probably maybe had emotionally or physically unavailable parents. So it could be the father, it could be the mother, maybe they had to travel a lot, you had to spend time, making an earning, and you were just left to fend with some other person and you just wanted to be seen. And this is a core need for a young child leading up to 7 years of age, 8 years of age, but the first 3 years being very crucial. You could have emotionally unavailable parents, so they were present physically, but emotionally unavailable. So maybe the father was just, comes home, sits by the TV, doesn't really emotionally be present with the child. Maybe mother was, she had her own wounds and she's just kind of doing her duties. Maybe it was a big family, there were too many kids and you didn't get time. So we're not saying the parents are wrong. It's just a circumstance. It might have happened. Could have had depressive parents, alcoholic parents, and so they're not emotionally available to the child. Now, what happens in this is the child, of course, needs love, validation, and to be seen, to feel safe in their worth. So as they develop up to that 7 years of age, 8 years of age, the love, and attention, the validation, being seen by their parents is going to establish their self-worth. This is where they build confidence. When there are gaps in that, this is where they're going to have wavering sense of self, or low self-esteem, low self-concept, low self-confidence. These things seed within these years, okay? So hopefully this concept is clicking for those of you if you've experienced this. Now, I'm going to operate with my point of origin, which for me was a mother who was emotionally available all the time. And when I asked the question to myself, which is, who do I want to be seen by the most? And that is my mother. What if we challenge that belief? And okay, I do want to be seen by my mother. And when I say be seen, it really means to be validated, to be accepted for who you are. A lot of us are very different than our parents, right? And so you might experience that some parts of you are accepted and some parts aren't rejected. So now there have been times where my parent has accepted me, has seen me as well. And I went into a little bit of, okay, so what happened? How did it enable me? What changed in my life when that happened? And there wasn't much that changed. Interestingly, I was still the same person. I was still performing the way that I was. And I perhaps had a lot more love for myself. However, in the way that I was showing up in life, that hadn't changed and shifted. The reason for that is because the wounding happened back then. So the trauma happened back then when I was younger and needed it then. Them showing up today might give you a little bit more satisfaction and validation, but we really need to connect with that childlike part of you that felt the wound then. This is an interesting concept. So let's say if you were presenting in front of people, you were ridiculed in whatever way, and the same people come forward and they're like, okay, so you're doing well, you did well, we didn't mean to, da 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 da. How much would that change for you within? Because here's the thing, what's happening externally can affect you only when you create a story about it and internalize it. So even if these people came in front of you and told you, you did a good job, we didn't actually, sorry, we weren't ridiculing you, we were laughing at something else or something of that sort, you realize that a belief within you, if you're still operating within the belief of, I am not worthy of being seen, and now you've got the external circumstance that's telling you, oh yeah, you are worthy of being seen. What happens then? And this is the power of your beliefs. If you're still believing that you're not worthy, no matter what folks are saying out there, you are going to operate as if you're not worthy. You are going to still have that fear of being seen. So it's really about challenging your own beliefs and taking ownership and responsibility, and then moving forward, moving through the fear. Okay. So let's say now that I am being seen, right? So these people, they're telling me I'm seen, and there's some circumstances when I'm seen or not. What happens then? So the next part of this is really interesting, which is when you're seen, you might feel a little bit of this reaction. You might just kind of claw back, which is a little bit scary because for years you've been operating within the belief that you're not worthy of being seen, or you can be seen and it's safe to not be seen. But now when you're seen and you put yourself out there is a reaction in your body, and you want to understand that reaction. That reaction might be a little bit of, well, if I'm seen, I'll be seen for who I am as a whole. And who you are as a whole is your many parts, right? So you are parts that are good parts, there are parts that you might yourself not accept, you might reject, that you're still struggling with and you feel you want to work on. There might be parts that other people don't accept. And to challenge that further, do you accept people around you, your loved ones, 100%? We often find that with others, we have parts that we accept of them as well, and then parts that we don't. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we reject them. So with this fear of being seen, it might be attached another fear of, well, if I'm seen, I might be then seen for parts of mine that I don't accept myself. Now, this is a deeper belief, and this is something that you have control over. If we don't accept ourselves, if we are afraid of our own shadows, our dark parts, our gray parts, whatever you want to call them, I call them colorful parts, then no matter someone accepts them or rejects them, it really doesn't make that much difference. Maybe when you're rejecting yourself internally and someone rejects it, it's kind of like double whammy, right? It's double the pain. But we can never control the external. We're always going to face different kind of acceptance, but we can control the internal. So gently working with parts, which is like, well, what parts of me am I truly self-rejecting to? And can you bring them to light, right? It might be, oh, I look a particular way, I speak a particular way, I have nothing to offer. There's so many things that will unpack as a result of this. So writing them down and journaling them down, and I've written it down in my journal here. And so some of these parts that you feel that you're rejecting might be attached to the same wounding, which is from your past, where you feel like your mom or you weren't accepted for this from the parent or whatever circumstance, whatever your point of origin was. Okay, so if they weren't able to accept that or you perceived it that way, can you accept those parts? That's important. Because as an adult, we can take ownership, we can take responsibility. All right, moving forward. So maybe asking the question gently, can I be okay with not being accepted in some ways? This is a very powerful shaping question. Can I be accepted in a way where I might not completely feel rejection? Maybe I'm not in between complete accepting myself, but I'm just kind of in between. So we're just trying to swing the pendulum a little bit in between, establishing some balance here. And can you honor your own truth? So yeah, I have parts that I don't accept, but we do not need to be terrified about them. The only way you're not going to be terrified is if you move from rejection a little bit into acceptance. Perhaps rephrasing this as, yes, I am learning to accept certain parts of myself. Just see how that feels in your body. Just see how that settles in your body. Give it a few moments. And I like to write things on a sticky note as I'm working through deeper beliefs. I like to kind of have a reminder every day for about 30 days, just seeing that, because we can reconstruct these beliefs. All right, now, another powerful affirmation that you could work on is it's okay if the parent didn't see me, this person didn't see me, whatever your point of origin is. It's okay if they didn't see me. I see myself. Now, you can use this even if you don't believe it. I have a sticky note that says on my mirror, I see you. And every morning I look at myself and I'm like, I see you. So challenging yourself in that way where you're like, yeah, I see you. All right. So reestablishing some of that belief within yourself, worth within yourself. Seeing yourself is the medicine that you need in this. Okay, let's move into the other beliefs that might be connected to fear of being seen that I alluded to earlier, which might be fear of judgment from others. So if your point of origin wound is, you were judged maybe, or you perceived you were judged early on as a child, or you were ridiculed, you might then develop this fear of judgment from others. And what you want to understand is, what is this fear really about? So what part of me am I afraid of for it to be judged? So it might be that you have different dreams and aspirations than your circle of people, right? And you're just someone who pursues things in a different way. And so it is natural to have a fear. So this is very tribal, very primitive. If you're different and you're kind of like the black sheep, it is a little bit threatening because survival meant being within a community safety. And if someone was left behind, that meant that something was wrong with them. They were sick or they couldn't, travel with the group, and they were kind of left behind. And so that's scary. But sometimes when we're not part of a group, it's because you're growing out of the group. You might not be the person being left behind. You might be the leader. You might be the trailblazer. You might be the torchbearer. And so often that path is a lonely path that you walk. So just seeing kind of where you're at and understanding that, yeah, you might have different pursuits. And then maybe looking for people who have similar pursuits, and I will guarantee you will find those people, okay? So fear of judgment from friends, it could be something that you have something different to share. Maybe there's a difference of opinion. You just view things in a different way, and everyone has their place. I would also challenge you to believe that, do you have within your group of people those who have different opinions, and do you judge them? So if you do, this might be where the fear of judgment comes from, because if you can do it to someone else or for someone else, then it is true that it can be done to you too, okay? So working on that and cleaning that up a little bit. So for me, I am very different than my group of people, and in the way where I'm actively pursuing growth, personal growth as well, spiritual growth as well, and professional growth as well. So I have different ways of growing myself, and not necessarily everyone wants to be on the same trajectory or do it with the same intensity, right? And not that there's any right and wrong, but often it can seem like a lonely path, or it can feel like there isn't much that we can talk about, or I can share. And when I'll share, it might be judged, but I would challenge that. Share it anyway, is what I say. Share it anyway, and those who come your way, amazing, and those who bless you, amazing, and those who just make no kind of efforts to validate it in any way, that's okay too, because at the end of the day, it's you who needs to be true to yourself, and don't lose yourself in that. So I always say, I'd rather have judgment than have rejection of myself. So that's powerful. Moving on to the third belief that can be tied to this is fear of being incorrect. So with fear of being seen might be attached that I have to be correct. I have to have all my facts out there. I have to know what I'm saying. I would like to challenge that by asking, is there anyone who has it all, who knows it all, who is always correct? And do you believe that, there is that person? Because we could guarantee there's no one that has it all, right? And so even an expert can be wrong. And it's about taking ownership and responsibility when you are wrong, but also allowing yourself to be wrong. So if you have this fear of, of being incorrect, perhaps you have a perfectionistic view that I have to be correct all the time. And so this again will, these are like two friends, fear of being seen and fear of being correct, which can be the fear of failure as well, right? So if I'm incorrect, then it's attached to, well, I can never be wrong. And this might come from perfectionistic tendencies. So we are never 100% correct. And in my opinion and experience, if you're able to take responsibility, those who are true and human to you are going to stick by, just like, they're never 100% correct. But at the end of the day, it's about what you think about yourself. What are your beliefs about yourself? So just wrapping all of this up, fear of being seen and how can we challenge it is by asking two main questions. What happens if I am seen? And imagining it as if it's happening. I am being seen, and so what's happening within you? And then number two, can I be okay with not being accepted and seen in some ways? And actually, the first probably important question is, who do I want to be seen by? So those are the three main questions you want to be asking, journaling about, and kind of breaking the cycle there. And then we have the fear of judgment. So what is it? What part of you are you afraid of being judged? And then we have fear of being incorrect. What view do you have about yourself? Do you believe that you have to be 100% correct? So I'm going to rest this over here, and maybe we'll do videos like this where we're deconstructing these beliefs And like I said, the way to do that is one, to go to the point of origin, the very first instance where this happened, and really start to understand it. Really try to revisit that story. It's like a chapter you've written in your storybook. And sometimes when you go back, you pick up new information. You're like, oh, I didn't know that there was this character in here, etc. And so you get to rewrite your story in this way. Wish you a lot of love, blessing, kindness, ease in this process. Be kind to yourself. We'll talk soon. Bye now.